Half-Life fans are no stranger to lost media, broken promises, and cruel tests of patience. It's in our blood, but just when you think you've seen it all, something new comes up, or something you've been following just slips away. Which also basically describes where researching this video led me. This is the story of Frontline Force Classic, a mod for Half-Life 2 that really had the community talking, but then simply disappeared for almost 20 years, officially becoming lost media. That is, of course, until now. In 2000, Adrian Pink Phenol released Frontline Force. It was a decently popular mod for Half-Life, which focused on a fast-paced, team-oriented shooter playstyle, something that is by now very familiar. In this mod, you'd have attackers and defenders, with attackers attacking points and defenders, well, I'm sure you can guess. There was also a simple class system, which could easily be compared to something like Team Fortress, with recon, assault, and support classes, all with their own attributes. These simple, well-done gameplay features were a solid foundation for a fantastic community to be built on. The mod was well loved by those who played it. I was able to find posts about people making and running decently large clans that people would recognize and remember for years to come. There was a real community around the mod, something that you can't simply wish into existence with a mediocre product. Like I wish for you to click the subscribe button. Pink even went on to do stuff like working at Valve on Dota 2, then Blizzard helping with Overwatch, and a significant amount of other developers from this mod found themselves at Valve too. Another developer, Omega, even worked with Min Guzman Lee, co-creator of a little Half-Life mod called GoldSrc that some of you might have heard of. The resulting project, Tactical Intervention, didn't do very well, but it was a commendable effort. Soon, a Half-Life 2 version would be talked about, Frontline Force Classic. It was to be an updated version of the beloved mod, brought into the source engine. Maps would be recreated, models would be improved. Things were going to be like the original, but better. People were excited. We got this update in August 2005 on ModDB, showing some promising looking screenshots of maps like Risu, Lombardy, Heatwave, and of course Beer. A few people popped in to share their praise and memories of FLF. Love this Ice Cube reference, by the way. And just a few months later, another update came, just before Halloween. This time they shared some very cool looking models. And look at how good they looked. I can only imagine the excitement. Unfortunately, I was still figuring out how to write with a pencil at the time, because I was a very small child. So, you're probably thinking, lost mod? Well, this sounds quite optimistic. Well, what do you think happens next? A demo? A creator meltdown? Well, in 2006, they released a big media release pack containing quite a lot of work in progress content. People seem really excited. We even got this comment, which, I mean, you've got to laugh. Can't wait to play the open beta. Oh, you poor thing. Can I get an F in the chat for this guy? This was complete with a website link, which I can't follow, a link to an interview, which I can't listen to, and a forum link, which I immediately got into and started reading. Just kidding, it's all inaccessible now. I can't even use the Wayback Machine here because of the recent hacking events. And then that was it for the project, under that management anyway. 2 years later, in 2008, we then learned that Blackened Interactive was supposed to be finishing the mod. In an exciting, grandiose post, they commit to an open, transparent development process. A quote, condensed development cycle, and the type of professionalism you expect from a team that has members who went on to work for Valve, Gearbox, and more. The remaining original developers of the mod merged into Blackened, and this seemed like a real helping hand at a time when it was clearly needed. At the time, this wait of 2 years with very limited contact, and then a promise for more transparency? Oh, sounds great. So what was next? Nothing. Just nothing. So I started searching everywhere I could for scraps of information that hadn't already been purged or lost to time. What I found was really interesting. I tried to piece together a complete picture, but there really weren't that many sources. I think though this is a decent outline of what probably happened. According to the Encyclopedia Gamia archive wiki, things got a bit messy. As I mentioned before, David Dynaman took over, and it seemed FLF enjoyed a quick succession of upgrades and improvements, marking an exciting time for players. But things were about to get even more chaotic. Dynaman left the team to join Raven Software, and is credited with programming for Quake 4 and working on other big names such as Alien Swarm and Wolfenstein. And who can blame him for moving on? Raven is a pretty big ticket developer, responsible for some pretty cool games, and now, after being swallowed up by Activision, are typically involved with Call of Duty. After he left, Tony Omega Sergi, the guy who I mentioned worked with Guzman, took the reins as lead coder, working on a lot of new versions of the mod. Though sadly, not all of them saw the light of day. But something big was coming, something important. And this is arguably one of the bigger reasons that things hit the fan. You see, when Half-Life 2's engine, Source became available, it was huge for the modding community. Naturally, many mod developers made the leap to the new engine, and you'd be hard pressed to find a Half-Life player, especially a mod enjoyer, who didn't buy Half-Life 2 as soon as they could. So the combination of people exploring the insane fidelity and features of Half-Life 2's engine, and modders gaining access to new tools that made the impossible possible, meant that new mods were popping up quite quickly, and old popular mods were coming out with source versions and dragging the player base into the new engine. So FLF began hemorrhaging players. The team behind it were thrust into an unfortunate position. They could either hold on to their beloved GoldSrc wonder and try to make something of it, or commit to a source version of the game. They didn't have long to decide either, as every day the source engine was out, it seemed they'd lose more and more players. With this in mind, wouldn't you feel like working on further developments was a waste? Unfortunately, plenty did in the dev team, and many saw the writing on the wall, which was another blow to FLF. You can polish your Camry as much as you want, and the Camry is a wonderful car, but it won't become a Lambo. The difference between GoldSrc and Source was just impossible to gap, even with the FLF team's evident talent. So it seemed they'd have to quit, or get cooking on a Half-Life 2 mod from the ground up. And that is how we got to FLF Classic. It was created more out of necessity than anything, and I'm sure you can already see the implications of this. After working on a passion project for years, building a strong community that still fondly remembers spending their evenings blasting each other, shake-up after shake-up, suddenly they have their biggest task yet, developing in a new engine, racing against the clock, and most crucially, making something because they had to, not because it would be fun. This was the price of continuing the legacy of this beloved mod. By this time, Omega had also moved on, and Jeff Rousseau stepped up to the plate, managing the project. Those who remained gathered together, and under Rousseau's lead, they set about reviewing what made the original FLF so good, and how they could capture that magic again for the new engine. The developers of another mod, Lethal Agents, helped out too, and indeed it appears their community enjoys quite the overlap with the FLF community. Needless to say, these people probably knew what they were doing. And yeah, this looked really exciting. And this is where those screenshots and teasers I showed you at the beginning are from. For many, FLF seemed like it was finally going to enjoy the second wind it deserved, but then that was all. Interest in the game persisted though, even in the 2020s. I found a comment from the guy responsible for the posts on ModDB on the FLF page, saying it smells like home. But still, we wouldn't have anything tangible for another 3 years. Clearly, there is a huge sentimental value to this project, so that's what made what comes next even sweeter. As some of you no doubt know by now, thank you Radhaz, the unthinkable happened. After the most gut-wrenching it's over, we found the most euphoric we're so back. A file appeared on the FLF Classics page on ModDB, posted by a mysterious user simply called HL Mods. Their only other upload on ModDB appears to be a re-upload of Dark Match, a mod that is like Half-Life Deathmatch, but dark. It was an alpha build of the elusive mod, just waiting for you to delve into it. It's really hard to believe that just when I think I've seen it all, I managed to be there for yet another once-in-a-lifetime Half-Life event. Now, at the time of writing, it only has 30 downloads, so we need to continue getting the word out, and I will link you to the page. You can download the mod and read the instructions. Since I believe most of you can read, I really appreciate being able to have this window into a mod that probably occupied the minds of so many people for almost 2 decades. If you enjoyed this video, vote with the like and the subscribe button. I'll see you soon in another very, very big project. See you next time!